Welcome to our new Inverid webinar. My name is Wil Jans and I'm co-founder of Inverid. We have many returning visitors with us here today and I'm really pleased with that, but also quite a few new faces. The recording of the webinar will be shared with you after the webinar, so feel free also to share it with friends or colleagues. In our Inverid webinars, we have discussed numerous use cases of remote identity verification at the highest trust level. We also see a growing interest in the combination of physical identity and digital identity, and we have many requests or use cases of that. Think, for example, of digital travel credentials, pre-registration for access control, or things like the European entry-exit system. Today we will explore these type of use cases, and we have two great guests for that, so let's get started. Welcome to our webinar on the combination of physical and digital identities. I'm very pleased to have with me here Koos Verhave, Chief Commercial Officer of AMP Group, one of our much appreciated partners. And joining us via Zoom is Gareth Williams, General Secretary and Chief Strategic Partnership Officer at Eurostar. Welcome, Gareth. Great that you could join us.
Thank you for the invitation. It's great to be joining you from Brussels.
Today's topic is, as I mentioned, the combination of remote identity verification with physical interaction, like digital travel credentials, registration for access control, pre-registration. And we see more and more applications in this field in general, as well as customer inquiries. So we thought it would be a good idea to discuss them in more detail. And the two guests we have today are great examples of the interesting use cases that we have. Before we go to Koos in the second half of this webinar, I would like to introduce our guest from the UK, calling in from Brussels, Gareth Williams. As mentioned, Gareth is General Secretary and Chief Strategic Partnerships Officer at Eurostar. He joined Eurostar in 2011 from the UK Department of Transport, and he brings with him more than 20 years of experience in government, but also in-depth knowledge of the whole rail infrastructure and the rail industry. At Eurostar, he heads up the legal team, leads on development and appraisal of Eurostar's strategic choices and all kinds of new business proposals. He also gives advice on issues affecting Eurostar, which are quite a few, of course, where government legislation or industry regulation is involved. And that's one of the topics that we'll dive into, this complex ecosystem of cross-border travel. Gareth, we all know Eurostar, and I think many of us, especially here at Inverid, have traveled with Eurostar through the channel over the last few years. Many of us have even used that Smart Check app. I personally did as well, and I really loved it. It's a very productive way of traveling, way more productive than flying. For our audience, would you be so kind to sketch how cross-border travel for Eurostar works, including the Smart Check app?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm delighted to join you today on what is the day before our 30th birthday. So a bit of looking to the past, but with Smart Check as well, very much looking to the future. And at Eurostar, we have a unique challenge, which is managing a live borders between Schengen, what is now a third country, in an historic station environment that is very much space constrained. And that's an environment that over the past many years has become more and more complex as the demands on the border increase. You know, each year it seems another bauble is hung on this particular Christmas tree in terms of the list of requirements, and we're about to enter into a particularly busy period of innovation, both within the UK and within Schengen. So Smart Check was really an attempt to try and cut through some of that and provide a practical glimpse of the future. And I'm delighted that it's something we've done. And we've partnered on the technology with iProve and with Entrust, who I think are also close partners of yourselves at Inverid and are working on a number of proposals with you as well. So, you know, we're delighted to have teamed with them. And I'll say a little bit about what SmartCheck does, and then I'll play a very, very short video, and then perhaps we can get into the conversation. But essentially, it is a biometric means of doing the train check-in and the UK exit control. And it adopts a process which I think will be familiar to many of the people online of scanning the chip in the passport, of taking a photo of the data page in the passport, and then taking a super smart selfie, which flashes all sorts of disco lights and images at you to test for liveness, and verifies your identity to create a travel credential. And that is then verified and then stored on your phone. And once that's done once, you're done with the enrolment. And then each time you travel, you simply add your ticket, you add the PNR code for your ticket. And when you're ready, you say, I'm good to travel, at which point your data is sent from your phone to the podium at the London station where SmartCheck is. And at that point, you literally walk straight through. And as you walk through, the SmartCheck system reconciles your identity, it checks you in to our train, and it does the UK exit control as well. And this is the first time that a biometric-only application has gone live in that way in general use at the UK border. And we then delete your data and it sits back on your phone. Perhaps we can talk about how important that data trust element is. But it's a really simple operation, and it works very much in real time. And I'll ask in just a second to play a video. I've got a very, very short video clip. I thought about this, and if you look online, YouTube, SmartCheck, Eurostar, you can find all sorts of glamorous marketing videos where happy people go through seamlessly the process in the usual way. But I thought what we'd do is just actually film someone using it yesterday at the station, so you can see how it works without any of the marketing, any of the glamour, just a real-life use of the system, and see genuinely how easy it is. So if you could play that video, that would be great. Thank you. And really, genuinely, that's it. You don't need your phone, you don't need your ticket. It's a facial biometric. And in the time it took that lady to walk past that podium, she had checked into our train and completed the UK border. We then take her straight through security to the Schengen entry controls. So I think that's all I want to say by way of introduction to the system, and very happy to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, the term that I always use for these kind of things, it's deceptively simple. So if you can make it so simple that you say, well, you forget about all the complexity that you had to take care of in data handling and checking all kinds of things. So we saw, I think it was a lady walking through it. She faced the camera. That camera recognized her, and she could just pass. After it turned red for the cameraman to stop. Just to check, I mean, the face is compared to a list of potential passengers, isn't it? It's not face recognition in general.
No, it's not. It's not face recognition in general. When she pressed, I'm ready to travel, the data was sent to the podium. Generally, I do that literally as I'm walking up to the station. And it's then the comparison is done on site, and when it's verified, the data is pushed to our reservation system and the UK border system, and a bit afterwards the data is deleted. So what we're trying to replicate is very much just as you used to have your passport in one pocket, you would hold on to and own that data until the point at which you're ready to hand it over for the transaction, and then you take it back. Yep. That's very much what we're trying to replicate here.
Yeah, clear. Yeah, as mentioned, I passed it as well. I really liked it. With SmartCheck, you said it's a glimpse of the future that works now already. It's in practice. It's in practical use. Given the context of its use, how do you see that value of remote pre-registration at a location like London St Pancras or Gare du Nord, which are, well, old railway stations, historical railway stations, often cramped, not that much room. How do you see the value of SmartCheck and pre-registration in that context?
I think pre-registration is increasingly essential. If you take St Pancras, for instance, the processes we manage there are the queue to check in your ticket, the ticket gate check-in, a airport-style security process, the UK exit control and the Schengen entry control. And all of those processes have to happen for about 9 to 11 million passengers per year in an area the size of 3 tennis courts. And one of the challenges with systems like EES or previous border controls is they put all the process at the border. At the most constrained point in the process chain is where the process is loaded. And anything that enables that to be done at an earlier stage, before you arrive at the station, whilst you've got time, before you're in this constrained environment, is incredibly valuable. And it's also valuable because it enables the same data and the same transaction to potentially drive multiple processes. As you saw in the example we had, it was really important to us that we were joining up both a commercial process of our check-in and an official process of the border exit control.
Yeah, I can imagine. And I think a second advantage also for the customer as well. I'm always a little bit anxious when you travel, taking a bit of the complexity also to the quiet area of your couch before traveling. Also makes it for me as a traveler more convenient to travel. You introduced SmartCheck now, I think it's roughly more than a year ago. What actually drove you to introduce SmartCheck? Was it mere experimentation, innovation, or what triggered it?
I think 2 or 3 things. You know, we're always on the lookout for innovation. We're particularly on the lookout for innovation that will improve things for our passengers. And we'd been watching this kind of technology for a long time, seen its maturity. But also, you can see the complexity that is being added at the border. You can see that all the authorities are starting to shape a future that is around automation, but it doesn't always join up and it doesn't always take advantage of these remote solutions. And what we wanted to do was to make the potential real. So part of it as well was about supporting and driving our engagement with the authorities, with people like the European Commission, in order to show both the maturity of the technology and the potential of these kind of systems. And I think in its small way, it's helped drive a lot of the debate and now push towards, for instance, the remote app around EES.
Yeah, so the technology is one side, but really the complex interplay of all those processes in different jurisdictions with different government organizations, that's even the bigger complexity that you wanted to tackle, or at least show how it could be tackled.
Yes, and I think that is the principal challenge ahead of us. There is, I think, an increasing cultural acceptance within the border authorities of the shift towards more automation and the start of that debate about remote access. But joining up is hugely important. We saw this during COVID. When you had slightly different rules for travel or slightly different definitions of what constituted vaccinated, then demands for assistance at the station went up by 35% and compliance went down. So I think an important element of the future is this ability to collect data once and to use it across many systems and many applications. I think it improves security, it improves compliance, and it improves things for customers as well.
Yeah, we almost forgot that the complexity of all the forms that you had to fill in to travel from one country to another, even within Europe or to the UK. Those were hard times indeed also for these kind of things. There's quite a few questions coming in the chat, so I'll go to them in a few seconds. But one question still from my side. How do the travelers appreciate SmartCheck? What's the feedback that you get?
Really positive. 96% of users rate it excellent and will use it in future. And I think there was a really subtle thing that you introduced earlier when you were talking about the ease of use. And it's one of those things you don't appreciate till you have it. And funnily enough, one of the barriers to adopting SmartCheck for customers is our business check-in is pretty good anyway. So people like the business check-in, they appreciate it, and they think, well, adding SmartCheck, will it be that much better? But when they do enroll, you see this fantastic loyalty towards the new system. It's a very subtle thing about what a difference that ease of process makes. If you think you've already got something good, you think, but that ease of process is really impactful, and you don't realize it till you've experienced it.
Yeah, the experiencing. I fully agree. Often people think there's a balance, or not a balance, but a trade-off between ease of use and security. One of the questions is about that also. So Hanneke is asking, so how do you deal with the permissions you need under GDPR to process the biometric info that you are processing?
It's really important to us. We are absolutely GDPR compliant. We are absolutely transparent with our customers about what we do and don't do with their data, and we try to do as little as possible with it. That trust of customers is incredibly important. That's why I put such emphasis on replicating the processes and the environment people are familiar with from their passports. There is the initial handshake when you are enrolling, and then the data comes back to you and sits nowhere else. Yeah. You choose if you want to share it. Once you've used it, you delete it. I have no interest. I don't know who's using SmartChecks. I don't reconcile it. I have no interest in using that data other than for the purposes which it's intended. It's deleted afterwards. You can delete the app and your data at any time. Yeah. Incredibly important.
Yeah. Thank you. One other question that I would like to pass on from Ian, asking it from the UK. He asked, how do you validate that the biometric, when it's created, belongs to the genuine person? So you have that pre-registration where you use your passport. How do you link the passport to the person actually traveling?
Part of the enrolment process, and I'll leave it to more technical people to explain the processes that actually make that reconciliation. What I would say is both that reconciliation and the process of walking through the gate all happen to ICAO standards. part of getting the approval of this was, of course, working with the UK authorities so that they were also convinced that the verification was accurate, and doing the testing that showed that reconciliation to who was going into the information that the authorities were getting at the receiving end. So it is incredibly secure. There was a nice thing, I think Andrew Budd from iProof said. He was asked by a journalist when we were launching this thing, and the journalist said, is it 100% guaranteed secure? And he said, well, nothing is, but it's about 100,000 times more accurate than just a facial recognition check by a human.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, indeed. The link is made when pre-registering, and that's a similar combination of biometrics and chip reading that we at Inverid use in many use cases. You really have to bind the holder of the document to the holder of the smartphone and the person genuinely present in the transaction. One last question. There's still a few other questions, and people at home, feel free to pass them on. If you can't answer them here, we'll answer them afterwards. But one question, last question from my side. Smart check is still in Europe quite unique. What do you think is needed to exploit this potential to the fullest, also in other contexts like ETAs or the European entry-exit system?
I think partly it's cultural. I think part of the impetus behind Smart Check in introducing it in the UK was a definite shift in emphasis in culture and strategy from the UK Home Office and border authorities before and after COVID, which was a real drive towards this kind of technology, towards this kind of automation. And I think there has to be that political belief and that acceptance by the authorities to make it work. I think that's a big part of all of this.
Thank you, Gareth, given time. It's great to see this example where security, privacy and user-friendliness are combined to such an extent. It was great to have you here. If people have other questions, feel free to pass them on. Gareth will leave the session now due to other obligations, but thank you again.
Thank you.
Yeah, so before we move to Koos, finally, we would like to share some interesting news with you related to the use case that we just discussed. This summer, Frontex, the European Border and Coast Guard Agency, conducted a project known as App for EES, with multiple airlines, Arlanda Airport and the Swedish Border Police, to pilot a pre-registration app that could potentially support the entry-exit system regulation that's due to be implemented probably by the end of the year in different member states. Inverid was working with partners to provide identity document verification and facial verification orchestration for that pilot. The app being known at Arlanda Airport as the Quick Border app. In our experience, the results from this challenging and very fast-paced pilot looked positive. So we're pleased to be able to contribute to that. Second news item. On October the 21st, IT analyst Gartner published its first Magic Quadrant for identity verification. Until now, Gartner only published things like a bias guide and some hype cycles on this topic, but Gartner thinks now that the market has grown into sufficient maturity. The Magic Quadrant identifies 11 vendors that have a threshold value of more than 100 million euro of revenue, or 30 million euro of revenue and a high growth. And to be included, you need things like photo capture, data capture, document authenticity assurance, and face verification. The Magic Quadrant does not require NFC, unfortunately. We think that's unfortunate. And the Magic Quadrant identifies now 5 leaders, including Inverid partner Entrust. Another partner of Inverid GBG is also in the Magic Quadrant. Inverid itself is mentioned is included as a so-called honorable mention. And in the words of Gartner, Inverid offers a differentiated IDV solution by means of its primary focus on the use of NFC to access chip-enabled document. As a result, Inverid is often used in high assurance use cases. We are very proud to be included in this first edition of the Magic Quadrant and to support our partners in their inclusion as leaders. So we hope to grow into next editions of the edition as well to provide all kinds of customers with our trusted identity verification. So, moving to Koos, finally, I'd like to introduce Koos Verhave to you. As mentioned, Chief Commercial Officer with Inverid partner AMP Group. Koos has been with AMP from the start, and that's almost 20 years ago. Oh. Inverid only has been in action for 11 years, so you've been there quite a while. So welcome, great to have you here in the studio. Most of our audience will not be too familiar with the AMP Group. Your focus is also on the Netherlands with your customers. So would you be so kind to briefly introduce AMP to our audience?
Yes, very well. Thank you very much, Will. AMP Group provides premium logistical and identity verification services. We do that to, in fact, to make customers' life more easy every day. By doing so, we provide consumers with products. We deliver products to their home addresses. We deliver medicines to local pharmacies in the night, every night. And we collect human diagnostic samples at healthcare professionals and deliver them to laboratories. In general, that's our activities. And as you see on the slides, we have, in fact, 3 market segments on which we focus ourselves on. And if we look closely, the first one, it's medical on the left side. It's all about, in fact, delivering the right medicine to the right patient under the right conditions. You can see typical customers are academic hospitals who have a large base of patients where they have a responsibility to deliver them the medicines, even if they're not in the hospital. Medical clinics, medical wholesalers who have patient support programs carrying out. So that's, for us, a very important market segment. Next one, please. If you look at the second segment, it's electronics and high value. And there you see this is, for instance, the delivery of mobile phones for a mobile telecom operator. For ICT resellers, it can be a high value piece of electronics, like a laptop, other electronics. And we do so mostly with a specific form of identification. And that's what I'll zoom in later on. But you see that that point, you need to be sure that, in fact, you deliver the product to the right person, and you need to be sure that this is the right person. So you need to verify its identity, and sometimes also you need to let them sign a contract so that the telco operator knows that he's going to pay the bill for what he signed for. And the last, in fact, the last market segment that we're in, the documents and identification. Well, it's clear that there's a very deep knowledge of all sorts of identity verification for us in this field. We deliver, in fact, the root documents like the passports. We deliver them to the people at their homes for the municipality, like we do also with the driver license. But also we do that with, let's say, personal access cards on which a specific certificate is implemented. So you see that the security, that you need to be sure that the right person receives the right card or document is very important, and you need to make an audit trail, in fact. So you need to perform an identity verification at the doorstep before handing over this specific document to the customer. And of course, this also needs to be in a customer-friendly way. So by appointment, making all room for the customer to make or change their appointment at any time that they like. Also, we look at the KYC processes of financial institution banks. You see that they have large group of customers that want to be a customer, or customers that need to be re-identified. And also there we play an important role, because people can't always come to a branch office anymore. And if they don't cope with a remote identification, you're stuck in the middle and you lose your customers. So typical clients include banks, identity service providers, or trust service providers, and the local governments, the municipalities.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for explaining. So that it's typically high value delivery where you really need to bring the right content, even the right identity to the right person. Well, for high valued stuff like mobile phones, I can imagine. But for even for medical stuff, it might even be life might be at risk if you deliver it to the wrong person.
Certainly, and you mentioned medical things. The typical identity verification is not so much the issue. The point is more that you need to adapt your application with that supports, in fact, your whole delivery process. You need to adapt that exactly so that the medicine can never be handed over to the wrong person. Yep. And that's a very important thing. Although it's not a direct verification of identity, because there is not so much fraud risk involved in this case.
A drug that is for somebody, a medicine could kill another person if it's
definitely, yes. So and delivering medicines, I mean, everything is about delivering it to the right person on the right moment, under the right conditions, because that also is very important.
And then conditions, you mean, for example, temperature or?
Temperature conditions, yes, temperature conditions, and also the monitoring of those temperature conditions. Yeah. Yeah. So if it exceeds, what do you do?
Yeah.
So in fact, it strongly depends on the use case and the preference of the customer. If we have an identity verification to carry out in telco, in passports, secure documents, we deliver a product and we perform an identity verification at the doorstep. Sometimes that's also accompanied by signing a contract, like I said. But for the KYC processes and the certificate service providers, the logons, like, for instance, e-herkenning, the customers can have a choice to make. Do I want to be identified remotely by using an app that we developed by using the NFC reading out of Inverid and the iProof facial recognition and liveness? Or do I give the preference to do it at the doorstep in a face-to-face way? So it is, in fact, important to give a choice to the customer if you want to, if you want to capture all the customers that are interested in your services. And here's an interesting example when giving the customer the choice for identity verification, for instance. On the right side, you see the remote identification in blue, and on the left side is identification on location, so it's the face-to-face. And I just gathered the percentages of the people that passed the remote identification and the identification, in fact, face-to-face. First, I said, well, let's look at the choice of the people. Which percentage of the people prefers to have an identification on location, and which percentage remotely? Because you see that there are people who are perhaps not digital savvy enough, who have an ID that is on which chip is damaged, or any other reason why they don't want to proceed with a remote identification. So giving them a choice up front, that saves you, in our experience, at least 7.5%. Then you need to give a consent as a user to use the app. So a very small percentage says then, okay, I prefer to have somebody at my doorstep. The technical conversion, and that's about an immense high, 96% conversion in one single unique session. That depends very much on how user-friendly your application is, and what interactive instructions you give to the customers while performing this identity verification. So you see that there's only after that a very small dropout for business rules. Like, okay, we see that you said your name is Janssen with one S, and we now see it's with two S's. So we can't accept that. That's logical. But then you see that all these dropouts you can compensate, or you can regenerate by using an identification on location. And at the end, it gives you a more than 12% extra conversion rate.
So it really puts inclusivity of the whole process. It makes it a very inclusive process. Nobody has to drop out for whatever reason. If they're just, they can be fundamentally against doing things digitally. They can be not tech savvy. So there's a lot of value to the customer for following this process, as well as also the end customer, the people, but also there's tremendous value for your customers, so the telcos and the air canning portray and things like that.
Like air canning, this is a typical example for them. So we used to verify the identities for air canning always at the doorstep. But you see that the immense increase of people demanding such a login, that makes it almost impossible to do it at the doorstep.
Explaining air canning a little bit to the people not from the Netherlands. The Netherlands has a citizen-oriented identity scheme, which is called DigiD. There's also an identity scheme for companies, which is called air canning. So it allows you to register on behalf of a company, to do transactions on behalf of that company with government agencies. But that, of course, has to be on a high level of security. So typically, it can be an EIDAS substantial, or preferably even EIDAS high. And that's the word e-herkenning that we Dutch word e-herkenning that we recently used that we used here in this discussion. So there was a lot of there's a lot of value for both sides here, and talking about the number of conversion of 96%. That's also a similar number than, for example, ABN AMRO mentioned to us. We had a few webinars ago, we had somebody from mortgage side from ABN AMRO here with us, and they also got to 96% conversion, which is which shows that you have a really state-of-the-art implementation that's really user-friendly.
Exactly, and it's not by accepting the wrong people, if you know what I mean.
No, you can always crank up conversion, but just saying yes to everybody. Yeah.
That's it. Because our application, our remote identity application, is within eIDAS mentioned as is compliant to eIDAS High. So it's a high level of security that we provide there.
Yeah, and that's very important. Also in the new developments in Europe, such as the European identity wallets, the whole onboarding should be done at eIDAS High level.
Yeah.
And that means that basically you have two choices: to go to somebody and do it in person, or to have somebody go to you in person, which is not so common anymore, or to do it with NFC and biometrics. So that I guess this use case that you're using now might be a very interesting way of also approaching the ingestion of personal data into the European wallets later.
Yeah, that's definitely.
So it's important to offer that choice to the customer. What do you experience from your customers, also the end customers? Do they appreciate having somebody at their door?
Yeah, I mean there is and there will be, to my knowledge, always a group of people that prefer to have a personal contact instead of just trusting a digital device, in their opinion. So I think that's a major reason. Another reason is, for instance, and there's some European regulation in process about that. For instance, opening up a bank account should be accessible for every citizen. Yep. And if you're closing down your branches, and if you only have a remote way to become a customer, you're cutting off a part of the people. And, let's say most governments think something about that.
Yeah, and there's also societal obligation for you to. We have a question from a bank. So we have Attila from Rabobank. He would like to ask something. If you perform an identification on location, do you still do the biometric comparison, for example, using iProof, or is that an element that can be carried out in another way by the person himself?
It's a superb question, really. Because technically, yes, it's possible. The thing that we discovered is that if you want to do something like that, that can be quite invasive for somebody at the doorstep. I mean, it's still the same way to do it if you're alone in the room and looking at your phone instead of somebody else holding the phone in front of your face. But still, there is a hurdle to be taken.
Yeah.
But technically speaking, yes, we can do it.
Yeah. It was like what Gareth also mentions, that maybe the machine might be more reliable in doing so.
Yeah.
But of course, you had already built in so many reliable steps that the question is, maybe the personal identification in this case is slightly preferred due to the human factor in the whole process as well. So let's check other questions. One I'll handle later. You help prevent fraud, both in the physical way as well as the digital way. So what do you see as the most important factors currently that grow fraud? We hear a lot about generative AI. Is that the biggest threat factor, or is societal changes? How do you see that goes?
It's a mix of many things. I think one of the things that I've seen lately is that it's becoming so easy to onboard to typically what I call low-end OCR based KYC processes. So people just making a photograph of their ID, uploading it, and then you're approved as a customer. And I think that cannot be the case, because it is so easy. You can download a script from the internet, and you can put data on it, whatever you want, and the numbers and everything are correct. Yeah. And either if you call Donald Duck, or if you call Donald Trump, or anyone else, you can put each one's face on the document, and you have something where you can onboard and make financial transactions or whatever. So that is what I consider a big risk at this moment. All those still, let's say, lower-end OCR-based things, instead of using the NFC chip as the reliable source for obtaining the customer data.
So it's basically more that our tolerance towards fraud, the fact that we still tolerate fraud to take place with such easy solutions, which is now has become easier than ever, indeed. So, okay.
Sure.
We are running out of time, and so it's already 1:45 by now. So thank you very much, Koos. We still have one question, which was slightly more general, that I would like to reply to, and that was a question on our capacity for handling large-scale real-time verification. Verifications. So one thing to emphasize: if you use the chip in the passport, that can be checked fully automatic, real time, at very high volumes, because there's no human in the loop. It's not necessary. It's not only needed as a fallback if you want to handle non-chip documents as well, but then it's also very hard to capture fraud. So yes, this technology can easily scale to 10 to 50 transactions per second without any problem. Thank you, Koos, and well, Gareth is gone, but thank you, Gareth, as well. It was a pleasure discussing these interesting use cases with you in our Inverid webinar. Thank you for watching this webinar and sharing the questions with us. I'll share the answers to the questions that we could not answer live later with you. We at Inverid hope that you indeed enjoyed the discussion as well. We'll share the recording with you as soon as possible, but feel free to contact us if you want to know more on trusted identity verification, remote or hybrid, as Koos explained. For now, thank you and tot ziens.